Welcome back to the Messy Reformation. My name's Jason Rice, and I'm the Associate Pastor at Bethel CRC and Chaplain at Central Wisconsin Christian in Waupun, Wisconsin. My co-host is Willy. He's a member at Pease CRC in Pease, Minnesota. We're just a couple of guys who love the Christian Reformed Church and want to see Reformation happen in our denomination. But we realize that whenever Reformation happens in the history of the church, things get messy. And after the last couple of synods, and as we move into this rebuilding phase of the Reformation, things continue to be messy in the Christian Reformed Church. So we're taking the opportunity to have conversations with pastors and leaders throughout the Christian Reformed Church to find out what's going on in our denomination, but also to talk about what Reformation and rebuilding might look like. If you haven't already, take a moment to click subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming content. We're dropping episodes every single Sunday evening. It's also important for you to know that you are our marketing plan. We rely on you to spread the word about what we're doing at the Messy Reformation. We rely on you to share our content, and we also rely on you to give us 5-star reviews and provide good feedback for this podcast. You can also support us financially on Patreon or Substack. All the money raised is used to build the platform of the Messy Reformation. With all that said, we're going to get to this week's episode, which is part 1 of an update from the Messy Reformation team. Well, we've got another great episode coming to you from the Messy Reformation, an opportunity to update everyone, a conversation with just me, Willy, and Dan. We wanted to just kind of give some updates on where we're at on life and then have some conversations between us at kind of where the CRC is at right now and where we see things heading leading up to Synod 2026, and possibly do some dreaming or a little conversation about what we think, some direction we want to see the CRC heading. We typically do this podcast episode in January each year where we start dreaming about the future of the CRCNA a little bit. So that's where we're going to start. I will kick it off to Dan first and let Dan give us a little update on his life, and then Willy, and then I will, and then we'll roll from there.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Yeah, it's good to be back. My life has been fairly quiet is a good way to put it. I just got approved for a sabbatical, so that's fun. I'm taking a sabbatical this summer, and we'll be just kind of spending time with my family, thinking about how my life has changed since I got into ministry. Back in 2014 is when I graduated, and it was just me and my wife, and we had one kid on the way, and now here we are 11 years later, and we've got 4. And so, a lot has changed. Kids are growing up and wanting to spend some time. So we'll be, kind of hanging out around Michigan, the UP, and the Lower Peninsula, spending time with family, and also then thinking about calling a little bit and just kind of where I see God leading me in the future. Had some people speak that into my life of things that they could see me doing, and I thought, well, we'll hear what that looks like as we get into that. So that's a really exciting thing coming up here as I continue to pastor at Baldwin CRC. But yeah, I mean, coming up in the near future, pretty excited about. I'm part of the candidacy gathering that's going to be happening in Phoenix here next week, at least when we're recording. So the first week of February, we've got candidacy and a bunch of CMLT folks from across the nations, and just excited to see what comes out of that and the passion for raising up new leaders. Also heading with a few of the guys from our denomination to the Coram Deo conference over at Christ Covenant Church outside of Charlotte in March. And so really, we a bunch of us, including Jason and I, went there a couple years ago when they held it the first time, heading back now and just, really looking forward to the times of worship and teaching and good conversations with those guys. So, yeah. How about you, Willy?
Well, thanks for that, Dan. I would say some of the newest stuff for me, I don't even know if I publicized this on the podcast or not, but in August, the Christian Reformed Church of Pease installed our new minister after 2 years of being vacant. So we are now sitting under the teaching and preaching of Pastor Brad Bierma. He came to us from Pella, Iowa, and I'd previously served at Synod 23 with Brad, so I had a little more context as to who he was when he got here. So excited to be sitting under him and his preaching and his educating us in the Word. Really grateful for him and his presence in Pease. Other than that, some of the work that I've been up to lately, and most notably, the Council of Delegates has been having some very interesting conversations regarding the consolidation of classes and how to maybe realign things. And apart from that, it's also been really heavily spoken of about having biennial synods. And COD is officially making a recommendation to Synod that we go to biennial synods. And the reason I feel strongly enough to speak about this is because I did register a negative vote. I don't think that was a good move. So things have been pretty interesting on the Council of Delegates front. And also on the ecumenical committee that I serve on, I actually wound up on a subcommittee that is doing dialogue and examining our relationship with the RCA. For some of you who may know, the EIRC was tasked by Synod 25 to enter into dialogue with the RCA and examine our closeness of a relationship and then what that is going to look like going forward. And they gave us a 5-year timeline. It's not necessarily a target date, but a timeline for our work. And I wound up on the subcommittee within EIRC that's taking up that work. So my time is being consumed rather rapidly, but the Lord is using my hands. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah. And we're going to spend some more time later on in this conversation talking some more about the COD recommendations and some of the buzz around that. There's a lot of a lot going on that. Yeah. So I'm thankful you registered a negative vote so we could really hear what you think on that.
Amen.
Yeah. I mean, as everybody knows, my life changed probably more dramatically than either of you stepping into my new role at school. And we've done some interviews since then, but I guess I haven't given an update on that. And now going into the second semester, that's gone really well. Not that it didn't go well at first. It's just a bigger adjustment than I was expecting it to be. And yet it's been really good. So, and I am really thankful so far that I'm, part-time at the church. So I'm in a assistant or associate pastor role there, leading, middle school, and high school ministries and then preaching. And then at the school as well. But it was a big adjustment coming into the school. But so it took me a bit to get adjusted there, but it's been really good. And so I'm seeing a lot of the benefit and the fruit there. And I mean, I already have at least one or two guys that are kind of considering ministry already. So I'm like, hey, I'm feeling good about that, where they're getting excited about that. And right now I made a change in the school. I'm teaching a systematic theology course for juniors and seniors right now. And so that's been really good. So we're finishing up right now. We're talking about the communicable attributes of God and working on that. And so that's been pretty fun having the kids. It's very reminiscent of Willy and I back in the day, doing youth ministry, walking kids through some of that. And so it's just a lot more often. So 45 minutes a day classes, walking kids through that. But that's been really good. And so, and it's been a good transition. The school had a big loss this year. Greg Zonefeld has been a member, has been part of the school for, I think, over 30 years, maybe 35 years. Was a pretty big pillar of the school and got pretty aggressive brain cancer 2 years ago and passed away this year. And so that was pretty hard. And so, I've been thankful to be in my role to kind of help walk our school through that and some of the destabilizing that happens when you lose somebody that important to the organization. So, that's been good. My wife's back at school too. So she's cranking away at her nursing degree and going to be done actually in middle of May. So she's only got like 3 months left or 4 months left. So we've had a busy full season, but God's been really, really good for us. So I'm thankful for that. We want to talk about moving from our lives just to the CRC. It's been an interesting season. And maybe we'll just start talking about some of that interesting season, like getting the feel where you guys think, rather than talking about specific things right now. We've got some specifics we'll get to, but like, what's the feel you're getting throughout the CRC right now? We all kind of know that there was a big buildup, right, to 2024, where that was the big kind of decisive blow. It felt kind of like D-Day kind of a moment. And then 2025 was kind of like, all right, we're going to take a breath and, make this going to be calmer. We're going to reinforce and kind of fortify. Where do you think we're at following 2025, Synod 2025, and then now leading into Synod 2026? I'll let you go first, Willy.
Yeah, and then you guys can clean up after me. So I would say the current state of the CRC right now is that of, I would say, trying to search for and fight and establish our identity. I think the years of 2022 through 2024, we kind of did exactly what our creeds and confessions do the opposite of. So in our confessions, we have our affirmations and then our denials of things. We've gone the exact opposite route. I think we've established what we are against, and now we're trying to we're having a hard time figuring out exactly what we stand for and what we are rooted and grounded and established in. So that's my take. I've been thinking about this over the last 6-7 months, and that's my off the cuff reaction. What do you guys think?
Willie, you and I talk plenty, and that is the first time I've heard that out of your mouth, and that is an interesting way to put it. And I say that just because I think back to, I want to say Aaron Vriesman did this work. I forget who for, but he wrote an article a few years back about the URC, and the URC kind of established their identity over their first 20 years as what they were not, that they were not the CRC. They were not allowing women in office. They were not kind of the loosey-goosey, you might say, on biblical authority. And so, they were going to have to make a shift after 15, 20 years and to figure out, who are we now? What do we stand for? What are we about? So that's really interesting to think about. And I wish you had said that before. I don't know even what to do with that, but that is really good. I do. I think, as I look at the denomination right now, I sense, I think you're right. Like, I think things are kind of an unsettling quietness right now. I feel like it's been a good season. Like, I've been able to focus on my local church and classes. I've been doing a lot of classes stuff. But in terms of like knowing, hey, this is the fight right now, this is what we're working on, there just hasn't been that thing, and it just haven't been as connected with other people, which is good. I think in classes like Superior, like we're looking at a few different things with just how we're kind of 5 to 10 years late on the church or on the classes renewal side of things, and I've been really active in that, and so I think things have settled down. And that has allowed people to do stuff in other avenues than just the denomination. But at the same time, I am encountering some conversations where people are saying, like, what did we do? Or what are we doing now? And I don't have an answer. I don't have the answer for where we're going. Obviously, we made a big deal about church planting at the last synod, but it's debatable if that's the right way to go. But yeah, what do you think, Jason?
Yeah. This whole conversation reminds me of this story from Eugene Peterson's book, The Pastor. He talks about when he was planting his church, he was able to gather a bunch of people, they started gathering, and then they finally, like, after a couple of years, had enough to build their church, and they moved into the new sanctuary. And then after they moved into the new building, he's like, it felt like all the wind got knocked out of the sails of the church. And people were just like, we did it. And just kind of were looking at each other like, hey, we accomplished what we wanted to do. And and he was like, I don't know what to do with this in my church. And so he went to the denominational guy and said, like, well, what should I do? And the denominational guy said, start another building project. And he was like, well, that's not what I'm going to do. I know that's not the right answer.
Please don't do that. Please don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, but I think it gets to this kind of reality of human nature where you're like, we've been kind of fighting for this goal for a really long time. And it's like, we did it. And then people kind of get done with that. And they're like, now what? And the temptation can be, and I felt this even a little bit last year, people were like, we'll start another fight, like find something else to like start going after. Because that'll rally the troops, And it's like, well, I don't think we need to start another fight. Like, that's kind of why we've been saying, like, no, we're moving into the rebuilding phase. Like, that's the season we're in. And I think Willy's right on the money. Like, a big portion of this rebuilding phase is identity. Like, who are we? And not just like even down into the nitty gritty, right? We talked a little bit about that. So yeah, church planting is a focus, but one of the reasons why the Messy Reformation Conference this year we focused on ecclesiology was we're like, I don't know if we fully understand what a Reformed church is right now. Do we know that? Or have we gotten so distracted by all these other things? And so should we go out and plant a bunch of churches that are not in agreement with our doctrine and our understanding of the church, right? So maybe we jumped the gun on that, right? Other people have said, should we be going out and planting a bunch of churches when we don't have enough pastors right now, right? That's been for the last 5 or 6 years, actually, in Classes, Wisconsin. Actually, since I've come here, I've been poking at our church planting team like, hey, we've got money. Why aren't we planting churches? And they're like, we don't have anybody to plant them. We've got places to plant churches. We have nobody willing to step in and plant them. And so this has been a problem for a while. So like maybe we kind of jumped the gun on some of that a little bit. But anyways, that's kind of jumping ahead to some conversation we might be having later. But I think it's kind of the natural letdown that comes after accomplishing something. And now we're kind of in this reset phase where it's like, okay, now what? Where do we go from here?
Yeah. So in Classes Lake Superior, so we're doing it's called the Organizational Realignment Committee, the ORC, for all the Lord of the Rings fans. That I am not a Lord of the Rings fan, but
oh no,
I know, heresy. It's one of my several heresies. So, anyways, we did a book study on the 5 dysfunctions of a team, I think it's called, by Peter Lencioni, and our group was looking at that. Like, Classes Lake Superior is massive geographic area, 22 churches, binational, like, so there's a lot of different influences going on there. And we were saying, like, yeah, we want to make things better in our classes. We want to get along. We want to work with trust and effectiveness. And how do we do that? And so I felt like going into that and the work kind of that we've been doing the last few years, it was like, yeah, we're going to make classes the team. And through that book, you just realize maybe we can't do that, right? Maybe the team of classes is not going to be the classes meeting and literally every member, every pastor, every committee. And that's hard, right? And so I'm jumping the gun on that conversation in classes because that's going to come to our meeting coming up here this spring. But I just mentioned that because I think there is some of that in the CRC that there has been, I don't want to get into like what kind of work has been going on behind the scenes, but a lot of us pastors have been networking and we've been in relationship with one another. And we want to say, yes, there's a team mentality. And there's one of the things that Lencioni talks about is a dysfunction of a team is inattention to results. And I feel like maybe out of these last few synods, we've said, oh, yeah, we know where we're going. We know what the results are. We know what we want. Maybe we didn't. Maybe we gave ourselves a mission without a results to work at or to know, like, hey, this is the next step. And so that's just, I think that's one of those kind of scary pieces of we don't know what we're doing and we don't know where we're going. And not to say like, and I think part of why this is a big deal right now is that I don't think the denomination has worked that way before. We haven't thought in terms of organizational. We just get along and do things. We just be church, and that is good. But I think just a lot of what's happened over the last 20 years and a lot of what the three of us in our generations have been steeped in is more thinking that way. Where are we going? Where is this going? And yeah, it's a shift that possibly we don't have everything figured out. I've railed privately against the Alliance of Reformed Churches because they built they were still building the plane while it was in the air. Lots of people have used that. They started up their denomination, federation, whatever they want to call themselves, but they didn't have a lot of things in place. And I'm like, well, don't do that. Did we do it? Did we just do that in a different way? So,
yeah, and I think maybe what's happening is just what happened over the last 2 years just revealed the fact that there hasn't been vision here for a long time. Right? I mean, that's been my big thing. Like, I just feel like we've been just kind of coasting around and we haven't had someone casting solid vision about where are we going. Like, okay, so we've got all these ships sailing together across the sea, but are we actually sailing together? And who's helping keep us together? We haven't had that kind of leadership. And I know people get kind of nervous when I talk about us needing good leadership, but it's not like a pope. That's not who I'm talking. I'm talking about someone who is excitedly, passionately reformed and is just casting that vision and saying, like, come on, let's go together. That's the kind of leadership we need in the CRC in lots of different ways. And I feel like we haven't had that for a while. And now that we've kind of made some strong decisions, we're seeing like, oh yeah, now we really haven't had that. We need that to kind of get picked up.
And I'm going to go ahead and tip my hat to people like Zach King, who we've given an awful lot of workload to. But now I'm going to go ahead and criticize a lot of our churches and ministers just for a second here. I think when we have called for leadership in the CRC, we tend to think it is those in the general secretary's office or those who are in the denominational headquarters. Let's look to them for the answers to some of these problems or some of these solutions to our problems. When in all reality, I believe the denominational leaders who we should be looking to are our ministers, are our elders, are those who are the presbytery, those who are in charge of the ordinary means of grace ministry. I think, and again, that's part of, you're getting a little hint of my vision. I'm showing my cards a little bit here, but I think that's been another struggle here is, who's holding the keys to some of these institutions, some of these places. That's something that I think we're struggling to find out right now too, is not just what vision, but whose vision should we be trying to live into?
Yeah.
That's an excellent, I think that's the hard part, right? Is if we are, I don't even know what the current number is. Like, so we are a denomination of around 950 churches, 925, something like that right now. So like, let's imagine that there's probably right around that same number of ministers. Yeah. How do you figure out a vision from 950 different people? Do you pick a majority vision or do you work towards something in common? I think that's part of that's the hard pushback. I think of not knowing how we do that. And I think that's why classes need to be active, right? That's right. If they are the delegated body of the churches, it's a lot easier to deal with. Even the COD. I don't want to give the COD the necessity of figuring out the vision. I don't think that's what you're asking for, Willy. But we're talking about it. It's a lot easier to have 50 classes thinking together strategically than it is to be thinking 950 or so pastors.
I think amen to that. And when I look at the CRC and its 4950 classes, I see a lot of diversity of gifts. I see, churches like, Minn Kota, Iakota, very boots on the ground, raising up farmers who then become elders, who also become ministers, ordinary means of grace churches. I look at Classes Southeast U.S. These guys are focused super hard on evangelism and church planning. They're cranking out churches like it's no one's business. Then I see classes like Lake Superior. We're doing our binational thing, and we're kind of becoming a microcosm of the denomination in so doing. And the problem here is we're each kind of doing our own thing. And then when we come to these gatherings, whether they be regional or synodical, it's kind of like herding a bunch of cats. At least that's the way I see. Everybody's got their own vision, and I think there's good things to be found in those visions. But how are we coming together and sharing these ideas so that we can have a more holistic vision of what the Christian Reformed Church is supposed to be living into as a confessional body? All of these things matter. And like Paul would say in Romans 12, 1 Corinthians 12, these gifts matter. These members matter. So I really think that we need to be stealing each other's ideas, lest we become a dead church.
What would be what's your solution to that? What do you think would be the way to like get, if we've got all these different classes and these different pastors in different areas, how do you see them like coming together for more of a singular vision where it feels like we're all kind of rowing in the same direction?
This is me thinking out loud here. I personally love the idea of classes getting together, even classes that are not even of the same region. Like you could have classes Hackensack getting together with classes North Cascades, and they're going to come together around a certain topic, and they might even write a joint overture to synod. Just kind of these shared efforts put into an action plan that are eventually going to become the work of the churches. I think that's really awesome. I think classical clerks attending meetings together as representatives of these classes is a really good idea. I know each of you have either been involved in those capacities or something adjacent to that, where these ideas can come together and form and just be of one mind. I really think things like that are a good way to generate ideas.
Yeah, I think about,
I think so too.
like, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
No, I was just going to say it's my like maybe passive aggressive way of pushing back a little bit, because my reasoning for saying like we need strong leadership is because I think that is the way. I think I suppose kind of like a football coach, where I mean, and I guess you could take a football coach as being micromanaging, and that's not what I'm talking about, but where you have somebody who's kind of above looking at all of those different classes and then casting a vision for how those classes can work together. So trying to kind of step in and encourage, no demanding, but encouraging, right? Like, hey, maybe take a look at what they're doing over here. Here's how I see that maybe functioning here. What do you think, right? And you're kind of using the power of persuasion and vision for people to be like, oh, I see that. Let's dive into that, right? And so if you have somebody at just a higher level, right? I mean, I saw that as my role, like in the local church to some degree, right? My job was to look around at our church, find all the various giftings in our church, and not force them to do things, but try to like help those giftings function as a body as effectively as possible, right? And so I was trying to like open up doors and encourage that gift and kind of correct that gift a little bit and try to fuel this one a little bit and organize to get it so that the whole church was going in a direction. And what I see, like Classis is supposed to be doing that with the local churches in a way. And then higher up denominationally, they're to be doing that with the classes, right? Trying to help push that. So that's what I'm meaning when I'm saying we could use some stronger leadership at the top, trying to do that kind of work.
I love that. And I was going to mention like this whole candidacy gathering thing, like, so the denomination has these different gatherings for stated clerks, for church visitors. They do some virtual stuff. But the candidacy one, I mean, that's part of, I've gotten to work with Susan LeClaire, the director of candidacy, quite a bit over the last year or a few years. And she is, I just want to give her so much credit. Like, she's one of those people who's just really good about saying, hey, they're doing this over here. Have you thought about that? And just matching people up that way. So I think like Susan LeClaire is one of those solid leaders who is doing some of this. But I do think there's a sense of I think of an organization like Thrive for the CRC. Like this is to me what Thrive would do. I don't need Thrive to make all sorts of new stuff, not because it's bad, but just because I don't need them to do that. but I want them to take the gifts that are already present and connect us. Like that's a good work that they could be doing. And I think that with that too, like I want to put the burden on, just as Willy said, like back to the local churches, the denomination, and we saw this with the Messy Reformation Conference, right? It's everyone's pushing to invite people to come to their thing. And what do you hear so often? You just hear crickets, or you hear really low buy-in. And I get it, right? We're in a time of transition, like we said, a time of the vision isn't really clear. So I don't know, I don't know if my vision matches their vision. But at some point, like we've got to just buy in, and we've got to try coming together. And if some people have said like that's what Synod should be. Synod should be this kind of idea processing meeting. I think Paul Vanderklay probably would absolutely love that if that's what Synod became. I don't think Synod should be that. I think we've got some stuff to work through, but there is a place for that. There is a place to talk.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and there's a good place. I mean, I think that's what was the attempt was through the Gather initiative, right? To get classes to cross-pollinate and do that. But yeah, I'm not sure. And I don't even have the answer, right? I'm not saying I like put me in charge of the denomination and I'll fix all the problems. I don't know. Like, I don't know exactly what it requires in order to get us all rowing in the same direction. I know it's possible because there's organizations much bigger than the CRC that are doing that. So it's possible to do that. And we're not doing it. I know there's a desire to. Like when I talk to denominational leaders, they're like, well, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing this, we're trying to get us. And it's like, but it's not working. We're not there. So we need to figure out a better way. And so I'm just kind of poking on the side, I guess, saying like what we're doing is not working. Something needs to change. And I don't have the solution. That's all we have for this week. If you want to help us out and support the Messy Reformation, another thing you can do is sign up for our newsletter through Substack. That way you'll get episodes and summaries sent directly into your email inbox. It also gives us the ability to communicate with our audience, which is one of the biggest struggles of a podcast. So head over to the Messy Reformation on Substack and sign up for our newsletter. But until then, don't forget this is Christ's church, and he bought it with his blood. And we've been warned that wolves will come in trying to destroy the flock. So keep a close watch on your life and on your doctrine. Preach the word in season and out of season, and keep fighting the good fight in this messy Reformation.